5 stories that I think we're missing this week that have not been discussed enough. Not only that, these 5 stories actually are going to impact us more because what the market is doing to them. These stories are not being touched, and because of these stories, I think we're going to see true financial hardships coming. And I think as a prepper, as someone who lives sustainable, we think back to things like the Depression that we've done studies on. Then it says, you know what? We are literally in the same trajectory of either a world war or depression. Let's jump into 5 stories today that I think we need to be paying attention to that are not being talked about enough, that is going to impact you tremendously. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. That's okay. But let us know what you think about the content. Our goal is to grow a community together, to be wise and find common sense back in a crazy world that we live in. Number 1 is there is an emergency meeting going on right now dealing with the diesel shortages and the diesel problems, especially in Europe. They're trying to figure out what to do and how to look at winter, how people can afford to be able to drive and freight. All that matters, because when diesel is in shortage, that means the price goes up, and that means goods are not going as far as they should. So therefore it's impacting you. Last week we were in a certain area in Colorado, and there's like a one-way in, one-way out. It's kind of in the valley of the mountain. And it gives me a little bit more anxiety because there's only one way to get food in or get food out. Now, we were visiting, so we had plenty of food. We were fine. But for the average American who is not storing food, not storing goods up, if there is a diesel problem, where the supply issues falter, or you can't get the things that you're needing, or you're paying at a 15 to 20% interest or inflation on those goods because of diesel shortages, it will impact your pocketbook a lot more. We have to realize that in itself, a supply and demand issue, or the fact that the supply chain breakup, remember 2020, it's going to cause for more price increases that we can't afford. Americans are already living paycheck to paycheck. This will put us even more involved with government and allowing government to give us what we need because we can't afford our normal life. So we have to be careful of this. I think the best answer is pump. You have to turn around and start getting refineries back up and going, and we have to get energy independent again. Not just for America. When America is strong, when they're energy independent, we can then sell and make more money, and we're actually able to help our allies versus them buying it from their adversaries like we're having to do too. This is a serious issue, and when it happens in Europe, guess what? It comes straight to our shores next. And this goes along with just what we were talking about. Number 2, U.S. food insecurity crisis erupts. 17 million households in America starving, highest in 11 years. You don't believe the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. The thing about it, when we go in these kind of economies and when we have leadership like we do now, it divides. It takes the middle class out and makes a top class that's getting richer because you're spending what you can and it's going straight in the stock market, it's going right in their pockets, and the poor is getting poorer because guess what? We are dependent on the government to give us everything we need because we can't afford the life anymore. We can't afford the debts anymore. We can't afford to buy our foods anymore. 17 million households in America is dealing with food insecurity or dealing with starvation. You don't believe that the school lunches is a big deal. I don't believe in public schools. I don't even believe in the programs that we're pushing. However, do you realize that if we didn't have free school lunches or free school breakfasts, a lot of those kids wouldn't eat? So in that aspect, we have to keep feeding the kids. But I go back to the breakdown of the economy, and that's what's causing this issue. So we have diesel shortages that are happening worldwide now. We're in a global market, so that means that impacts us. Now we're seeing food insecurities. Those are setting up for a volatile financial system, which is going to cause chaos, which will easily put us into a war or depression. While we're sitting here, look at this. This is Dolly. I don't know if you've met Dolly. Dolly is this is my A2 dairy heifer. She's not, I got to train her. She's not as warm and welcoming as my other ones, but this is Dolly. You'll meet her. We'll be training her, and you'll see a lot of information about our cows as we go back into heavy milking season on our vlogs. Check our vlogs out, the Max Life. You'll see my wife, my children, and you'll see me on there, and our goal is to tell you about homesteading, farming, and understanding the value in growing your own food. Number 3, there's a story that came out dealing with hospitals. It said 65 hospitals are closing or ending services. Now you think it's 65, oh, that's not a lot. 65 is not a lot. It's not. But why are hospitals closing? Why is primary care places closing? Why is clinics closing? Well, we're in an economy that shows that can't make it. We talked about this last week. If we're not able to get the goods that we're needing, if we're not able to get the food that we're needing, if all of a sudden we can't get the medical care that we're needing, it all relies back on you. As a prepper, you have to look at options such as, for instance, Jace Medical. We always talk about Jace Medical or Jace Daily. You need to utilize that. There's a 10% discount, great, grab it. But if you don't start putting antibiotics up or putting setting extra medicines up for you, there may not be a facility in your area before long because of the financial ramifications. I was in a hospital the other day. We were talking to a family that were there, and 2 of those floors in this 4-level hospital were closed. I said, why are those floors closed? And the words were, we're either short-staffed or can't find staff, or the fact is really there's no need to open them because it's costing too much for the hospital to keep them up. Now that's a concern, because if we lose food, we lose goods, we lose medical services, we're becoming a third world country right before our eyes. Number 4, this is from Jonathan Turley. He says, Oregon schools eliminate proficiency requirements in math and English for students. You're seeing education. We pay more for education than anywhere else in the world. This is why I'm against public schools, by the way. We pay more for every student to go to school and learn. And we are dumber than we've ever been. Now, is it just talking about Oregon? No. What we're doing is we're dropping the standards for exceptionalism. We're dropping the standards for what we expect these kids to have. We're dropping the expectations of college and the value of having a higher IQ or having a higher GPA or having a higher set of grades to get in this prestigious situation. Now, this is where I'm against public schools and colleges, because I believe that it is a indoctrination camp instead of actually being educational. We need to teach our children education again. They need to understand the value of dollars. They need to understand common sense, how to do certain things, math and English, how to speak, how to write, how to read. Most kids now, especially in the inner cities, are coming out, like 50% of them are coming out 6th grade level or below on reading and arithmetic. That is absolutely crazy, especially when you talk about the investment that you've put in that kid, because my tax dollars are going to pay for that, and all of a sudden they're coming out not smart and not able to contribute to the world. Then what have we done? We've lost. That's a liability. That's not an asset. Remember, if we're thinking investments, we're investing in these kids to learn. We're investing in these teachers to teach these kids, and it's not happening. We're lowering the standards so it makes the kids and the teachers look better, all the while they're actually becoming stupider and dumber, because guess what? We're foolish enough to believe that when we lower the standards that everybody's going to excel and actually go back to where they're supposed to be. No, we're just lowering the bar for them to all get over. The failing rates for these kids are unbelievable. If we don't start setting precedent back, this is going to impact us, because guess what? When we have someone that is lazy, things are giving to them, they're not contributors, meaning they're not kind of putting themselves above, they're not being exceptional, then they're going to be lackadaisical, they're going to be lazy, and then all of a sudden we're going to have to pay for them to be taken care of. Look at some of the generations and how they're living with their parents longer. The government is having to give more money out on food stamps, SNAP, or on the fact of welfare, or living on the government dole. What happens? We become a generation that is fully involved with the socialist mentality. And when we lower standards, we're not telling the kids to be exceptional. We're telling them to just get by. And that's not good. That's why, like my kids, when they're in homeschool, we teach them homeschooling. Homeschooling may take them 2, 3, 4 hours, way less than 8 hours. And most of my kids can easily be on that level or better than what grade they're in, comparable in the traditional school system. Why? Because it's teaching them education, teaching what they need to know, and then they can get out, play, soak up the sun, learn how to farm, learn how to do a skill. They're becoming a better American that's going to give back one day, and I'm trying to make them exceptional humans versus being subpar. The only answer to that is get your kids out of public school. I think you need to do a strike. If you're in a failing school, you and your other parents' PTA, now this is my opinion, you keep 50% of the school out. You keep 100% of the school out. You tell all the parents, keep your kid out for 1 or 2 days. Make that school suffer and see the value of what it means to strike a school. If you don't want to do that, take your kids out. Either go to some kind of charter situation, push for charters, go to private education, or homeschool. Homeschool does not cost any money other than a curriculum here and there. It's actually very, very economical. You just have to be willing to make the sacrifices. And that's the hardest part, is that you need to teach your children. That's biblical based anyway, to be honest with you. And number 5, I know we've heard the stories of how America has been bombing proxies basically in Syria. The scary thing is we are putting ourselves in a world war when we have no value. When our dollar is struggling, our military is smaller, and our economy is faltering. We have no strategic oil reserve, our diesel's low, and we're putting ourselves in war. Think of the lobbyists and the special interests behind that. I'm pleading the new Speaker of the House. Be strong, have a strong backbone, and stand against all this trash and giving all this money across the world when we can't afford it, and getting in all these wars that we can't afford and that we don't need to be in. We have to bring our money home. We have to bring our troops home. We have to put value into building our borders and not someone else's. 66.6 thousand Venezuelans only. This is not just every other country. Just Venezuelans made their way across our border this last month. If someone is moving here unlawful, they're not able to contribute because they're coming unlawful, so they can't really work and be a contributor to our tax system. So therefore, we're paying for them to get free money, free government help, and for us to see our jobs be moved because they're not doing it the right way. They're not coming in correctly. We are faltering. And these 5 things, just these 5 things, will either put us in war or put us in a financial depression that we have not seen. And you know, we drove through a lot of places going to Colorado, and guess what we saw? We saw a lot of open lands that could have cows on them. They didn't. We saw a lot of subdivisions that were so tight that people couldn't even grow a rose between the 2 houses, much less a garden. When we become completely dependent on the system and on the grocery store and on the fact that someone else has got to feed us and pay for us and take care of our goods and help us get our wants versus our needs, then you're moving into socialism, you're moving into a Venezuela or Argentina, and we're looking at a third world country situation, and I don't think we're ready for it. And I believe that's when you'll see the crap hit the fan. Guys, pay attention to these stories. They're impacting you. This is not just politics. This is not just geopolitical going across the world. This is your food, your money, your supplies, your goods, and the fact of your kids getting an education. It's very important. Guys, let me know what you think about this video. Our goal is to see these things and try to find a common sense approach to them. Let me know. I'd like to hear from you. I love reading comments. I truly read as much as I can. I try to comment as much as I can. It means a lot to me that you're watching. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless. Happy